a town resident, Kyle, who was in Washington and do the COVID things and everything like that. Coming back, I asked him to phone in as opposed to coming in. And he did request some time to talk, so I'm going to get him on the phone and maybe give him a few minutes to talk to us. I'm not exactly sure what it's about, but
He probably wants to give an update on what he saw.
yeah. Hey Kyle, it's Chuck. You're live on camera and everything. So what do you got going on?
Also, I just returned from DC after being there on the 5th and 6th. I traveled down to DC to partake in the March in the City of America, and I'm very scared as to where the country's headed now.
Amen. All right.
So, on the 5th, I had been in contact with some of the Lebanon residents on some churches leading a caravan down to the march. The march was, in my belief, was supposed to demonstrate that Trump, the lion, was leading an army of lambs to change the corrupt fraud that had been perpetuated. The entire morning before the march, you were given all the lowdown of how they were going to fight through lawfare the objections. They were going to ask for, since nobody could certify, they were going to ask for a few more days, and then the legislators were going to come back from the swing states and decertify and switch up the electors. And everybody was going into that knowing that there was a plan and that there was a way to get this done legally and peacefully. After the speeches, the crowd was instructed to march towards the Capitol down Pennsylvania Avenue. I went back to my car at the parking garage and put on a costume. Because, to be honest with you, if it was going to be the last day of the Republic, I wanted to live it like I lived every day. So I had my butcher jacket on because you can reason me here. You look like a butcher. Boy, where are you going? No, priests used to be butchers. So anyway, I'm also a trapper, and I would have to say trappers are shepherds. So I looked for my part. If I had a weapon, it was what I was carrying as a staff, and it was an unstrung bow. I was there for peace. And I walked at the ALM Plaza. I wished everyone I saw that they'd be blessed. I continued on to the Capitol, and I noticed from a very, very, very far away that there were people already climbing on top of the building. And that really amazed me, how quickly that had happened. When I got there and asked, how did we all get here so quickly? Someone said we were allowed in. So, I guess the first breaches or protesters getting inside the building happened nearly simultaneously as the first Arizona objections coming up. That pretty much derailed all the things that had been primed tell you another thing I noticed from the crowd and from the march. There was an enormous amount of combat age men. I can't say if that was just because the Make America Great movement has attracted that many young men, or if that many young men have that much free time on their hands. But that many young men can get angsty very quickly. I noticed at first, crawling over the steps and up the parapets and up the scaffolding, it was just a bunch of chanting USA, We the People, freedom. It was unfurling flags. It was fraternity, equality. I saw people of every race, color, everyone together on those steps. And I couldn't imagine more peaceful revolution, quote unquote. And then it seemed like pepper spray and tear gas and where people were corralled into, there was almost a human movement towards one single police line that were holding a door. And if you got close enough to the bodies, you would get sucked in. And you would not be able to move, and you would be pushed to the front. And when you finally were at the front, well, you would receive a beating, or you would get a baton. And I cycled through that wave of humanity twice before I was bloodied enough to get off the steps and get out of there. I walked around the crowd, and I gotta tell you, it was definitely a God-fearing crowd, because I had so many Samaritans try to help me after I was injured. I was escorted to an ambulance, and I was gotten to the hospital. I have 6 stitches in my head, and I don't think I could make any sense of anything that happened last night. I've heard it described as a failed coup d'etat. I've heard it described as a peaceful protest gone wrong. And I can tell you right now, as an American and as a thinking man, that it is a setup. I absolutely do not believe what I saw was the Make America Great movement. I do believe I saw agent provocateurs and a bunch of people who were really just trying to avoid pain, because pepper spray and tear gas is not pleasant. And many would argue, well, why were you putting yourself there? I would remind you, you were allowed there. This is a great game being played. And I know for a fact that I was a pawn in it. I am very concerned for this country and where we are headed next.
Well, thanks for calling in. That was pretty descriptive.
Okay.
Anything else you want to add, or are you okay now?
The only thing I would add is that I know there was some divinity in my trip, because without planning it, the first pit stop I took in Maryland, I met up with men from Lebanon. John Paul II, who was instrumental in ending communism in the world last time it was really prevalent. And I know that my visit to that shrine was a mistake.
What do you mean the
We
mistake?
are,
The mistake?
now it was not a mistake to go into the shrine of John Paul II. And he was very much involved in bringing down the Soviet Union. And I pray there are strong men out there right now that can help the world overcome what the Chinese Communist Party is trying to become.
All right,
I
well,
am,
anything else you wanna add, or we've run a little, hold on. Deborah's got a.
Thank you so much, Kyle, I appreciate it. It's Deb Wilson, and I appreciate you going, and I appreciate your reporting. I just want to ask, we have a Dee and myself, we're sitting here, are you okay now?
I am okay now, yeah. I mean, it was more of a laceration. I refused CAT scan, so.
Yeah, well, we're glad to hear you're okay, and thanks for going. It was interesting to hear it from a first-hand report.
Thank you. I needed to see it for myself, and what I saw on the ground is, boy, seems light years from what's being portrayed. I'll tell you another thing about this, and it seems like a side note now, but it was certainly a peaceful protest, because whenever you didn't smell the tear gas or the pepper spray, there was a very strong odor of marijuana.
That's awesome.
All right, Kyle, on that note, I'm gonna let you go. Gone pretty far, but thank you very much. I appreciate you calling in, and thanks a lot. And in a couple weeks, after you've been back for a couple weeks and everything's good, it'd be great to have you in for a meeting.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
All right, thanks again, Kyle.
All right, God bless.
You too, man. Bye.
He's a good kid.
Yes, he is, and he's 100% right, because the FBI, that's what I speak tonight, because, you know, all these politicians statewide and governor condemning everything, how terrible it was of a protest and everything. I had a lot of friends over there, and he was, right, the majority of people that went there were peaceful, and then the ones who stormed the Capitol Center were basically the Antifa people, that they actually, FBI got on facial recognition, and they released that bullet out today from last year's riots here in even Portland. Some of them were there. And what gets me more than anything, our dear lovely governor, you know, totally just like, yeah, my favorite person, totally dismisses, you know, 75 million people and just call them all thugs and everything. Now, the thing that bugged me about that, because a lot of the people, like Kyle said, were from the churches that were there, and I know they ain't fighting in their hole. Okay? But you know what you didn't do last year, Portland, when all the protests happened there, and Antifa, BLM, and all that stuff? I had to go up there as a federal inspector the next day to check federal properties and stuff. But you didn't once condemn what happened there. So, you know, I'm all set with her and her self-righteousness. But it's the same people, like I said, the FBI said they got facial recognition, that were, some were even involved in that, you know, destruction that wasn't even reported correctly for the state last year out of Portland. And I went up there the next day, and believe me, what they showed you on TV is not what happened there, because that place was destroyed. Certain places.
Yeah, it was.
It was. And I had to go up there in my official duties as a federal inspector, and I'm here to tell you, they flat out lied, and they took a little part of it. And not once did our governor, Troy Jackson, Sarah Gideon, at the time, deny what happened. Not once. Now, they even cordoned off space so they could protest and destroy stuff.
So it was set up anyway,
It was. Yeah, so the ones that stormed the Capitol building, like I said, the FBI's got facial recognition on them, they were involved in other fire bombings and everything else. But what they're doing is they're using those people, and hell, one of them already was Pelosi's daughter's husband.